There's a moment in every relationship where the mask slips. You don't always notice it right away. Sometimes it's subtle, like a passing comment you brush off. Other times, it hits you like a sucker punch. For me, it happened at a dinner table with 15 people watching, a birthday cake lit up in front of her, and my heart breaking in real time. My name's Shane. I'm 28, and I'm the kind of guy who never makes a scene. I'm the one who holds the camera, who drives everyone home, who listens more than he talks. I don't fight. I don't scream. But that night, I learned that silence can be louder than any outburst. Before I go further, let me take you back a bit. I met Lana 3 years ago at a mutual friend's game night. She had this magnetic energy, witty, stylish, made everyone laugh with those perfectly timed sarcastic one-liners. I was quieter, more reserved. I worked as a systems analyst, spent more time with Excel spreadsheets than people, and probably said thank you too often. But for some reason, she gravitated toward me. We exchanged numbers after the second game night, and 3 months later, we were calling each other boyfriend and girlfriend. At first, it felt like a dream. Lana made me feel alive, like I'd finally stepped out of the background and into something brighter. But over time, I started noticing things. Small things. Subtle digs in front of friends. Jokes that landed just a little too hard. "You're lucky I like nerds," she'd say with a playful shove. Or, "That shirt's cute. Looks like something my dad would wear." I laughed along. That's what you're supposed to do, right? Laugh it off. Don't make a big deal. Don't ruin the mood. And honestly, most of the time, it didn't feel cruel. Lana was the kind of person who poked fun at everyone, and it was part of her charm. But every now and then, something in her tone shifted. It would sting for a second longer than it should. I told myself it was just my own insecurity talking. We'd been together for over 2 years when her 27th birthday rolled around. She wanted to do something low-key but classy, so she booked out a private room in a restaurant downtown. Candlelit tables, dimmed lighting, the kind of place where dessert costs more than a tank of gas. She looked stunning, as always. Black dress, gold earrings, perfectly done nails. And when she walked in, everyone turned to look. I felt proud just standing next to her. Her friends had already filled up the long table by the time we arrived. I recognized most of them from previous get-togethers, people she'd grown up with, co-workers from her marketing firm, and a few of her Instagram-famous friends who'd probably live-streamed their entrance. Her parents came too, looking like they'd stepped out of a catalog. Her mom in a white blazer and heels, her dad in a crisp blue button-up. They gave me the usual nod hello, barely breaking eye contact with their phones. They'd never warmed up to me. Maybe because I wasn't a finance bro with a jawline sharp enough to cut glass. I had picked up the cake earlier that day, a custom thing with her favorite chocolate ganache and gold lettering, and I'd paid for the dinner in advance. It wasn't cheap, but I wanted her to feel special. I was raised to believe that when you love someone, you show up for them. You take care of things, even if they don't ask. The dinner went as expected. A lot of inside jokes I wasn't a part of. Conversations that circled around people I didn't know. Every time I tried to chime in, the topic shifted. It wasn't malicious, just exclusive. Lana thrived in that world. I was just visiting. She introduced me twice as my Shane, like I was a pet she was proud of. Her friend Brittany asked me what I did, and when I explained my job, she gave me a smile and said, "Wow." I'd fall asleep at my desk. Everyone laughed, including Lana. I laughed too. What else could I do? Then came the moment. Dessert had been served. The waitress dimmed the lights, and the birthday cake was brought out, candles flickering as everyone sang. Lana looked radiant, blowing out the candles in one perfect breath. Her mom stood to make a toast, something about how proud they were of her, how she was always destined for greatness. Her friends clinked glasses. I leaned over and whispered, "Happy birthday, babe." She smiled, that teasing glint in her eyes, and then, like she had planned it, rehearsed it even, she turned to me and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "You're lucky I even date you." And then she laughed. Not a soft giggle. A laugh. Loud and sharp. Her friends joined in. Even her mom let out this tight chuckle, like she didn't want to be the only one who didn't find it funny. The whole table turned into a ripple of amusement. I sat there, stunned. I think my mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. I scanned the table. Some people looked awkward, a few shifted in their seats, but no one said anything. No one stood up for me. Not even Lana. Especially not Lana. Something cracked inside me then. Not loudly. Not dramatically. more like the soft snap of a thin wire that had been stretched too far for too long. I took a breath, pushed my chair back slowly. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. I stood up, didn't yell, didn't flip the table, didn't even look her in the eye. I just said, "Thanks for the reminder." And I walked out. No goodbye, no scene, just gone. I didn't even realize how cold the night air was until I hit the sidewalk. I kept walking, my hands shaking now, my phone buzzing in my pocket. I didn't check it. I needed air. Space. Time to think. 3 hours later, I was home, sitting on the edge of my bed, replaying the moment over and over like a looped video. The way she laughed. The way they all did. I didn't know what hurt more, her words or their silence. That's when my phone lit up again. This time, it was from her best friend, Tessa. We weren't close, but we'd talked enough over the years to have a decent rapport. She texted me just one sentence. "Do you want to know what she told everyone after you left?" I stared at it. My chest tightened. I didn't respond right away. My thumb hovered over the keyboard for a full minute before I finally typed. "Sure." The 3 dots popped up almost instantly. Then came her reply, and what she said made my hands go cold. I stared at the screen, the glow of Tessa's message lighting up the darkroom. My thumb hovered over the screen, unwilling to scroll down. You know how your gut sometimes knows something before your brain catches up? That was me in that moment. I hadn't even read the message yet, and my stomach was already in knots. The preview said enough. "She told everyone after you left." My mind was racing through possibilities, each worse than the last. Maybe she told them I was being dramatic, that I'd embarrassed her, that I was too sensitive and made her night all about me. Or worse, maybe she'd been planning something more deliberate than a careless comment. Finally, with a dry swallow, I opened the message fully. She said, "Well, looks like he finally got the hint. I've been trying to get him to break up with me for months." I read it twice, maybe 3 times. The words didn't make sense at first, like reading a foreign language where all the letters are familiar, but the meaning slips through your fingers. My brain just stalled. Then it hit me. This wasn't just a joke gone too far. She hadn't just made a cruel comment in a room full of people. She had meant it. She wanted me gone. And worse, she'd weaponized her humiliation of me to get what she wanted. My walking out hadn't been a surprise or an overreaction. It was exactly what she wanted. I didn't respond to Tessa right away. "What do you say to that?" "Thanks for the heads up." Cool, totally fine." I set the phone down and just sat there. For maybe an hour. Maybe 2. At some point, I heard a car pass by outside. At another point, I realized I hadn't blinked in what felt like 5 minutes. Then the anger started bubbling up. Not rage. Just this slow, burning heat in the chest. My ears felt warm. My vision got tunneled. All the small things started flashing back in my head like warning signs I'd ignored. The comments. The jabs. The way she rarely introduced me by my name. The way she forgot our anniversary this year and just said, "It's not a big deal, right?" The fact that I couldn't remember the last time she had done something kind without a camera or an audience around. And maybe worst of all, the realization that I had seen it coming and did nothing. The next few days were a blur. I didn't hear from Lana. Not a call. Not a text. Not even a meme sent out of habit. After 2 years of living like we were in sync, I was just erased. I kept checking my phone like an idiot, hoping maybe she'd say something, anything. An apology, a defense, some kind of explanation. But she'd said it all that night, hadn't she? He finally got the hint. Tessa messaged me again on Tuesday. "Hey, just wanted to check in." That wasn't cool what she did. I didn't laugh, for the record. "Thanks," I replied. Then a few seconds later, another message. "Can I ask something kind of personal?" "Sure." "Did you know she was seeing someone else?" I didn't breathe for a second. "What?" "Sorry. I thought maybe you knew. There's this guy from her office. David. I'm not sure if anything physical happened, but she's been hanging out with him a lot. Like dinners and drinks and work trips that weren't really work." "You're saying she cheated?" "I'm saying she emotionally checked out a long time ago and didn't have the guts to say it." I felt my jaw clench. That slow-burning anger I'd been pushing down started rising again. My mind was doing that thing it always did, trying to rationalize, trying to play devil's advocate. Maybe it's just a rumor. Maybe Tessa's wrong. Maybe I misunderstood. But no, this wasn't about a rumor. This was a pattern. It all made too much sense. The late nights. The last-minute plan changes. The way she'd started dressing up more for quick work meetings than for our actual dates. I needed to talk to her. Not to scream, not to argue, but to confirm what I already knew in my gut. I texted her late that night. Can we talk? No response. The next morning, still nothing. But then I saw it. A tagged photo on Instagram. Lana, sitting next to some guy I didn't recognize at a rooftop bar. Drinks in hand. That same head-tilted smile she used in every photo where she was trying to look effortlessly glamorous. The caption was something stupid like Monday nights, and half the comments were fire emojis and queen, and that top is everything. My stomach turned. I clicked on the guy's profile. Public. Name, David Lang. Marketing director. Same firm. Of course. Half his pictures were from team building events in Napa or New York. The rest were gym selfies and close-ups of cocktails. And there she was, in more of them than I expected. A glass raised, a hand on his shoulder, posing with two other girls in one photo, with him right behind her in the background, looking a little too familiar. I didn't need confirmation. I already had it. But like a fool, I still hoped she'd talk to me. Explain. Deny. Lie. Anything. On Friday, 5 days after the dinner, I got a text. Hey, sorry it's been a weird week. I think we need to talk, but maybe not in person. That was it. I replied, are you seeing David? She took a full hour before responding. It's complicated. I stared at the screen. Just those two words. It's complicated. Not no. Not I would never. Not you're wrong. Just that. Something snapped in me then. Not broken, just restructured. Whatever hope I had left, whatever pieces of me were still waiting for this to work out, got buried under that single sentence. I didn't respond. And suddenly, I was back in my apartment with too many memories and not enough explanations. That weekend, I finally opened the drawer where I'd been keeping the envelope. It was Lana's birthday gift. I hadn't given it to her yet. I'd planned to give it to her after the dinner, once we were alone. I thought it'd be more personal that way, more special. Inside the envelope was a weekend getaway package, 2 nights at a secluded spa resort up in the mountains. Booked and paid for. I'd added a note that said, just us. No phones. No cameras. Just peace. I held the envelope in my hand for a long time. Then I tore it in half. And again. And again. That should have been the end of it. But life has this way of pulling you back in when you think you've finally stepped away. The next morning, I got a call. Not a text. A call. It was from my mom. She said Lana had stopped by the house. Let me backtrack a little. My family isn't the closest, but we're civil. My mom's the kind of woman who believes in appearances more than authenticity, and my dad is, well, a man of few words, most of them mumbled behind a newspaper. Lana had met them a few times over the years. My mom adored her. She once said Lana had ambition, which was code for she fits the image I want to project. So when Lana showed up unannounced at their house, smiling, holding a bottle of wine like she was coming to Sunday brunch, my mom welcomed her in like nothing had happened. She told me she misses you, my mom said over the phone. That she made a mistake. That she thought you were drifting apart and she didn't know how to handle it. I didn't say anything. Just listened. She says she wants to talk. Face to face. Just the two of you. I swallowed hard. Did she tell you what happened at the dinner? There was a pause. She said you overreacted. Of course she did. Did she tell you about David? Another pause. Longer this time. She said he's a colleague. That nothing ever happened. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just said, she lied. But this wasn't the breaking point. Not yet. The breaking point came a week later, when I got a message from my younger brother, Ben. Ben's 24. Smart kid, but always chasing shortcuts. He's had a different business idea every 6 months since he was 19, and he never sticks with any of them. I've helped him out financially a few times, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't stand seeing him crash and burn. He texted me a picture. It was Lana and him at a party, arms around each other. Captioned, power couple energy. At first, I thought it was a joke. Maybe an old photo. Maybe photoshopped. But then I saw the comments. Friends tagging each other. Someone wrote, wait what? With laughing emojis. Another person wrote, bro Shane's ex? And Ben had replied, wasn't serious anyway. That was the moment everything tilted. I called him. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Then I got a text. Don't be weird about it. It's not what it looks like. I replied, what I s it then? She's single. You're single. Chill. That was the breaking point. Not the dinner. Not the cake. Not even David. It was Ben. My own brother. standing next to the girl who humiliated me, who cheated, who manipulated everyone around her, and smiling like he'd just won something. He hadn't won. Not yet. But I just decided I was done being quiet. I was done being the guy who walks away. For the first time in years, I was completely alone. Not in the physical sense. There were still people around me, texts coming in from old college friends asking how I'd been, coworkers nodding politely in the break room. But emotionally, I was a ghost. I moved through my life like I was watching someone else live it. I stopped checking social media. I stopped responding to group chats. I even stopped going to the gym, which used to be my only way of blowing off steam. There was too much noise in my head and nowhere to put it. The fallout from the Lana and Ben situation hit harder than I expected. At first, I told myself it was just betrayal. Simple, cold, easy to name. But it was more than that. It was disorientation. Like I'd been living inside a house I thought I built brick by brick, only to find out someone else had swapped the walls while I slept. Lana had mocked me publicly and tried to spin it as a joke. She was probably telling her friends I was emotionally unstable or too sensitive. And Ben, my own brother, my own blood, he didn't even have the decency to apologize. Just a shrug in emoji form and silence after that. I avoided family for a while. My mom sent texts, voicemails. Just come for dinner, sweetie. We don't have to talk about anything serious. But I knew what she meant. Let's pretend it didn't happen. Let's keep the family machine running, even if the engines rusted through. I wasn't ready to sit at a table where someone might mention Lana's name without choking on it. At work, I faked it, smiled when needed, hit deadlines, took a few sick days here and there, claiming a stomach bug when I really just lay in bed staring at the ceiling. I told myself I just needed time, that the hurt would fade, that eventually I'd laugh at how naive I'd been. But the truth was, the silence hurt more than the betrayal. No one reached out. No one checked in. I'd spent years supporting other people, listening to them vent, helping them move apartments, lending money I never expected back, and when I needed someone, I was met with air. The rock bottom moment came about 2 weeks after everything blew up. I'd ordered takeout, eaten it straight from the container, and left the mess on the coffee table. I was lying on my couch, TV playing a rerun of a show I didn't care about, when I got an alert on my phone, a Venmo request. From Ben. He'd requested $60. The note said, Ubers and drinks. Lana's idea, winky face. I stared at it for a full minute. I thought my heart might stop. Not because of the money, $60 wasn't going to bankrupt me. It was the note, the smugness, the cruelty. He was rubbing it in, proud of it, like he wanted to see how far he could push before I snapped. And maybe, for a moment, I wanted to. I wanted to drive to his apartment and confront him. Yell, break something, make him feel something. But then I realized that's what he wanted. He wanted me off balance, humiliated, furious, because in his warped little world, if I reacted, I lost. So I didn't respond. I blocked him. I deleted the request. And then I turned off my phone and sat there in the dark, staring at my own reflection in the black TV screen. That night, I slept for 12 hours straight. The next morning, something had shifted. I can't explain it easily. It wasn't a dramatic, I'm going to turn my life around kind of moment. It was quieter, more practical. I got up, cleaned my apartment. I threw out the half-empty bottles of shampoo Lana had left behind, boxed up the hoodies she used to wear, and put it in a donation bag. I changed my bed sheets. Bought new ones, actually, dark green, thick cotton. They felt like armor. I made myself a real breakfast. Eggs, toast, fresh coffee. I didn't even look at my phone until after I'd eaten. For the first time in weeks, I felt awake. That day, I made a list. Not a revenge plan or anything dramatic. Just a list of all the things I had let slide while I was with Lana. Cancel and use gym membership I'd kept because she liked the sauna. Reconnect with Josh and Andy, my 2 best friends from college. I'd been ghosting them. Revamp resume. Take one solo weekend trip, no excuses. Start side project. That budgeting app one kept putting off. It wasn't a long list, but it was mine. And for the first time in a while, that felt like enough. Reaching out to Josh and Andy was awkward at first. I sent them a simple message. Hey, I've been kind of MIA. Went through some stuff. Would be cool to catch up. They responded within minutes. Apparently, they both assumed I was just busy or deep in relationship bliss and didn't want to bother me. We set a call for Saturday. That call changed everything. We talked for 4 hours. Not just about Lana. Honestly, I barely mentioned her. We talked about work, life, weird stuff we saw on Reddit, dreams we used to have in college. Josh told me he was building a home music studio, and he had just started training for a triathlon. I hung up the call with this weird ache in my chest, but it wasn't sadness. It was the realization that I had drifted so far from who I used to be, so quietly, that I hadn't even noticed. The next few weeks were a slow build. I started going for walks every morning, just half an hour around the block with a podcast in my ears. I rejoined a different gym. Smaller, local, no frills. I wasn't trying to reinvent myself. I just wanted to feel solid again, like I belonged in my own skin. The side project became my therapy. I dusted off the budgeting app idea I'd shelved over a year ago and started sketching it out again. It wasn't fancy, just a clean interface that helped people track small daily expenses without the bloat of other apps. I called it Sense. Yeah, a little cheesy, but it felt right. I posted a prototype on a few forums, mostly to get feedback. Surprisingly, people liked it. I wasn't planning to turn it into a full business, at least not yet, but the support gave me a quiet thrill I hadn't felt in years. It reminded me that I had value beyond being Lana's boyfriend or Ben's boring brother. I had skills, ideas, drive. About a month after that horrible dinner, I got a call from a recruiter. A small tech firm was looking for a new project lead for their internal systems, and someone had recommended me. I never found out who. Maybe a coworker. Maybe a manager I thought had forgotten my name. The interview went well. Better than well. I got the offer a week later. Better pay, better hours, and way more freedom to build things from scratch. I said yes before they even finished explaining the benefits package. I moved into a new apartment shortly after, just a few blocks away from my old place, but it felt like crossing a border. This one had more light, real hardwood floors, and no ghosts. I bought a bookshelf, a real one, filled it with everything from science fiction to cookbooks. I even adopted a dog from the shelter, a scruffy mutt named Leo who took up too much space on the couch and barked at vacuum cleaners. But beneath all of that, something else was brewing. Not resentment, not even vengeance. Clarity. I wasn't looking to get even with Lana or Ben. I was past that. But something still sat in my chest like a stone, the way they both got to walk away unscathed. Laughing, smirking, untouched, like my pain was just a byproduct of their entertainment. That wasn't okay, and I wasn't going to let it stay that way. Not out of spite, but out of principle. See, when someone burns you, it's easy to get caught up in the flames. But sometimes, the best revenge isn't fire. It's patience, and I was done being passive. It was time to start watching. Not waiting. Watching. I didn't wake up one day with some genius revenge blueprint. That's not how it works. At least not for me. There wasn't a lightning bolt of inspiration or some dramatic movie montage. It started slow, just moments. Little fragments of curiosity. A question here. A connection there. And then, gradually, it began to form. A setup isn't always about explosions or payback. Sometimes it's about information. About understanding what really happened, because you can't take your power back if you don't know where it was stolen. And somewhere between moving on and moving up, I realized I didn't just want peace. I wanted clarity. I wanted truth. And if the opportunity came, I wanted them both, Lana and Ben, to understand that I wasn't the same Shane who quietly slipped out of that dinner party. I wanted them to feel what it was like to have the ground pulled out from under them. Not by force, but by fact. It started with Tessa. We hadn't talked since her last message, but she'd kept watching my stories. I don't usually post much, but lately I'd been sharing updates. Nothing obvious, just casual shots of Leo at the park, late-night coffee runs, pieces of the budgeting app taking shape on my laptop. I could tell she was still watching, still curious. So one evening, I sent her a message. Hey, you free for coffee sometime? She replied 10 minutes later. Thought you'd never ask. We met at a quiet little place halfway between her place and mine. No cameras. No Lana. Just two people sitting down with a couple lattes and a strange kind of unspoken understanding between them. She didn't waste time. I'm just gonna say it, she said, pulling her hair back and leaning in. I'm sorry for what happened. I knew she was getting mean, but I didn't know how far it had gone until that night. I nodded slowly. You didn't laugh. I didn't, she said. But I didn't say anything either. And I should have. Her honesty disarmed me. I wasn't there to guilt her. I wasn't even mad at her. If anything, I respected her more for showing up now. I took a sip of my coffee and then said, Can I ask you something weird? She raised an eyebrow. Try me. What do you know about her and my brother? Tessa looked uncomfortable for a second. She tapped her fingers on the side of her cup. It's messy, she said. I don't know everything. But I know they started talking more after the breakup. At first, she told people it was innocent. That Ben was checking in on her. Then she showed up to a party with him, and everyone just kind of accepted it. I nodded. Do you think it started before the breakup? I'd bet money on it, she said. Lana's not the type to wait around. She was already emotionally out the door months before that dinner. You could see it in how she treated you. It was like she was trying to push you out without having to be the bad guy. I swallowed the bitter taste in my mouth. Not from the coffee. You still talk to her? I asked. Barely. She doesn't like being around people who challenge her version of the story. I raised an eyebrow. What's her version? Tessa gave a small, bitter laugh. That you were clingy, controlling, jealous. That she tried to be kind and let you down easy, but you made it difficult. I let out a breath through my nose and looked away. Tessa leaned in again. But Shane, no one really believes it. I mean, some of her friends do, sure. But the ones who've known her long enough? They know she rewrites reality whenever it suits her. It was validating. A relief, even. But it still didn't answer the bigger question burning in my head. Why Ben? Why my brother? Tessa must have seen the look in my eyes, because she said, You really want to understand this, don't you? I need to, I said. She hesitated for a moment, then pulled out her phone. There's something I didn't tell you, she said. I wasn't going to get involved, but I think you deserve to see it. She opened her gallery, scrolled for a bit, and then handed me the phone. It was a screenshot of a text conversation. From Lana. The date was 2 weeks before the birthday dinner. I swear, he's like a puppy. So desperate to please. I keep dropping hints, but he just won't leave. Ben's way more fun. Shane's like wallpaper. My heart sank. Another screenshot followed. This time from Ben. You're not going to back out, right? I already told Mom you and I were hanging out. She thinks it's just friendly. LOL. I handed the phone back slowly. So it wasn't just a drift. It wasn't just carelessness. They were coordinating. This was planned. And now, it was personal. I thanked Tessa. I didn't say much more than that. She didn't push. We both knew what this meant. And from that moment on, I stopped playing defense. I started planning. The first step was distance. I made it clear to my parents that I wasn't attending any family events where Ben might be present. I didn't give them details. I didn't need to. They weren't exactly confrontational people. They wanted peace, and if that meant pretending their sons weren't at war, so be it. But behind the scenes, I was collecting pieces. Tessa sent me more screenshots. Messages, photos, even audio clips from old group chats where Lana mocked me. One of them was particularly brutal. She was laughing with a friend and said, He's sweet, but boring. Like, I could marry him and fall asleep at my own wedding. She said that while I was planning to propose. I never told anyone that before. I had the ring, hidden in my desk drawer. I'd been waiting for her birthday to pass. I figured the weekend trip would be perfect. I ended up returning the ring a few weeks after our breakup. The jeweler asked if something was wrong with it. I just said, wrong person. The second step of the setup involved something I hadn't touched in years, my family's trust. My grandfather had left a sizable inheritance that was split between the grandkids, but with a catch. None of it was distributed until we turned 30. Until then, it was managed by a family-appointed trustee. Our uncle. I hadn't thought about it in ages. But something about Lana's obsession with image and money made me wonder. I called my uncle and asked if he could send me a breakdown of the trust allocations. I framed it as financial planning. He was happy to oblige. When I got the document, I saw something that stopped me cold. Each grandchild was supposed to receive an equal portion. Except Ben's was bigger, by $25,000. I called my uncle again. Hey, quick question, I said. Why does Ben's portion have a boost? There was a pause on the other end. Huh, he said. That doesn't sound right. Let me check. A day later, he called back. So you were right. There was a recalculation done 2 years ago. Your mother asked me to reallocate based on need and potential. I didn't think anything of it at the time. My mouth went dry. She told you I didn't need it? More like, Ben needed it more. I thanked him and hung up. Now I knew. Not just what they did, but how they thought. Ben and Lana believed I was a stepping stone. Steady, reliable, safe, and disposable. They thought they'd win. But here's the thing about quiet people like me. We listen, we learn, we wait. And eventually, When the time is right, we act. I wasn't ready to strike yet. Not without a plan that left no room for them to wriggle out. I didn't want drama. I didn't want a scene. I wanted irrefutable impact. So I kept building. The app, Sense, took off faster than expected. A few influencers in the finance space picked it up. Nothing huge, but enough to drive consistent downloads. A freelance writer from a tech blog reached out for an interview. I accepted. Shared my story. Not the breakup, but the inspiration. Feeling invisible in your own life. Tracking every penny just to feel in control again. People related. Investors began circling. Small ones. Friends of friends with seed funding looking for their next bet. I wasn't asking for millions. Just enough to grow the dev team, add a few features, maybe expand the brand. By the end of the month, I'd formed an LLC, registered the trademark, and quietly made a list of every person who doubted me. Lana, Ben, even my mom. I wasn't going to gloat. I wasn't going to rub it in. I was going to let the truth speak for itself. But the real opportunity, the perfect opportunity, came when I learned something through a mutual friend. Ben was planning to propose to Lana at our family's lakehouse, the one that still had my name on the deed, because my grandfather left it to both of us. 50-50, and I had never signed off on transferring full ownership. They didn't know that, but they were about to. The first time I visited the lakehouse, I was 9. It was early spring and still too cold to swim, but my grandfather handed me a set of oars and told me to row anyway. If you're gonna love something, he said, you gotta know how to work for it. That place wasn't just a summer escape. It was a symbol, the one piece of family history untouched by drama, scandal, or lies. And now, somehow, it was about to be the setting for Ben's proposal to my ex-girlfriend. The same woman who humiliated me in front of a room full of people. The same brother who called me wallpaper. The same people who treated me like a stepping stone. They chose my grandfather's house. My house. And they thought I'd do nothing. That was their first mistake. Ben must have assumed that because I hadn't said anything in months, I'd moved on. He probably figured the legal stuff around the lake house had sorted itself out. After all, I hadn't been there in years. But legally, my name was still on the deed. 50%. No renovations could happen without my signature. No bookings. No events. No weddings. They didn't know that I'd quietly updated the house's ownership files and flagged the property with the county for maintenance concerns, specifically, outdated plumbing and a roof inspection request I'd filed 6 months ago that had finally kicked in. All of it was about to matter, because Ben had planned the entire proposal as a surprise getaway weekend. Just Lana, a private chef, some fake rose petals, and one borrowed family heirloom ring, my grandfather's ring, the one originally intended for me. Yeah, I know. That was the second mistake. He didn't even ask. He just took it, told my mom he wanted to honor Grandpa. And she, being the kind of woman who's more invested in optics than outcomes, said yes. She didn't even think to ask me. But Tessa had heard about it. Word gets around, especially when it involves Lana posting cryptic Instagram stories like, "Can't wait for this weekend." Ring, with champagne emojis. Tessa sent me the date, the time, and the whole plan. Ben was taking Lana up Friday night. The proposal was scheduled for Saturday evening, during sunset, by the dock. The ring was already packed. The chef had been hired. The photographer, an old college friend of Ben's, was booked. And the only thing they didn't account for? Me. I waited until Friday morning to make the call. The local maintenance office answered on the third ring. "Hi, this is Shane Reynolds. I filed a work order a few months ago for the property at 112 Shady Pines Lane, the lake house." "Ah, yeah? I see it here. Plumbing and roof inspection. Still pending. I need to escalate it. I'm co-owner, and the house is being used this weekend without my consent. I believe that's in violation of our co-ownership agreement." There was a pause. "Would you like us to schedule the inspection?" "Please," I said. "Tomorrow. First thing." I hung up and exhaled slowly. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was calm, in control, focused. Then I called the security company. The lake house had cameras, not for spying, just basic ones for motion detection and property safety. Ben had probably assumed I didn't check them anymore. But I did. That night, I watched from my laptop as his car pulled into the gravel driveway. Lana stepped out first, wrapped in some designer jacket, high heels clicking on the stones. Ben followed with a smug grin and a bouquet of flowers. They unlocked the door, walked in, and disappeared from view. They looked happy, like nothing had ever happened. But tomorrow, they'd remember me. The next morning, I woke up early, drove 2 hours north, stopped at a gas station a few miles from the lakehouse, and parked behind the building. I wasn't going to the house. I didn't need to be there. I just needed to be close enough to feel it. At 8:12 a.m., the maintenance van pulled into the driveway. I watched it on my phone. The feed was crystal clear. A minute later, the door opened, and Ben came stumbling out in a hoodie and pajama pants, clearly annoyed. Lana followed, arms crossed. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I could imagine it. The county inspector introduced himself, held up a clipboard, and pointed to the roof. Then the plumbing hatch. Then handed Ben a yellow form. A notice of temporary usage suspension pending inspection results. Translation? They had to leave. No dinner. No rose petals. No proposal. And definitely no ring. I sipped my coffee and watched them pace the porch, arguing. The best part? Lana stormed off first. She got into the car, slammed the door, and refused to get out. Ben stood there, helpless, gesturing wildly at the inspector, who had already turned his attention to the roof tiles. By 10 a.m., they were gone. That should have been enough. But the story wasn't done yet. I still had one more card to play. On Sunday, I emailed my mother. The subject line was simple. Regarding the ring. The body? Hi, Mom. I heard Ben took Grandpa's ring for a proposal. I assumed this was a misunderstanding, as the ring was passed to me after Grandpa passed. It's clearly listed in his will. Since it's technically theft, I'd like it returned by the end of the week. Otherwise, I'll be filing a formal report. Hope you understand. Shane. No emotion. No blame. Just facts. She replied 3 hours later. I had no idea it was left to you. I'll make sure Ben returns it. Please don't escalate. 3 days later, the ring was delivered to my office in a padded envelope. No note. No apology. But it didn't matter. I dropped it off at a jeweler the same afternoon and had it locked in a private safe deposit box. For me. For someday. For someone who actually deserved it. And just when I thought it was all done, I got a message from an unknown number. It was Lana. Was this all you? The lake house. The ring? The email to your mom. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied. I told you once. Thanks for the reminder. That was it. No gloating. No victory lap. Just the same words I'd said the night she humiliated me, now returned with full weight and clarity. I blocked the number and never heard from her again. As for Ben, we haven't spoken since. I heard through a cousin that Lana dumped him a few weeks later. Told him she wasn't ready for something serious. No one seemed particularly shocked. My mom tried to reach out once or twice after that. Passive-aggressive texts like, hope you're doing okay, and family is still family, but I didn't respond. Family is earned, not inherited. And the people who stood by and watched me get cut down aren't owed anything from me now. I've rebuilt my life in full. The app is thriving. I hired a small team, 2 developers and a part-time content manager. We're launching a new version next month. I started dating again, slowly, intentionally. No more illusions. No more masks. Leo's still here, snoring at the foot of my bed every night like a furry little guardian. And me? I'm not angry. Not anymore. Because the best revenge isn't rage. It's reinvention. And I've never felt more like myself. I used to think silence was weakness. But now I know silence is power. Especially when it follows your final words. Thanks for the reminder.